Hello, everyone. Welcome to our SURG SDG Undergraduate Research Group InfoSession for the spring 2022 semester. Just letting you know, we are recording this to put on our website and on our Facebook. So if you want to be camera off, that's totally fine. But we're just going to have this as a future resource. Welcome in, everyone. This is the SURG Spring 2022 InfoSession. So we'll get started. With introductions, I'm Varsha, my pronouns are she, her, I'm currently a junior, and I'm one of the co-founders and facilitators for this semester of SURG, and I'll pass it off to Rohit.
Hi everyone, my name is Rohit. I'm also one of the co-founders and I'm a junior majoring in molecular environmental biology and interdisciplinary studies. And I use he, him pronouns, and I'm also one of the facilitators with Varsha. I'll pass it to Brittany.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a sophomore studying environmental science, and I'm the vice president of external affairs. And now I will pass it off to the committee leads.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ankita. I'm the co-lead of the Consumer Culture and Climate Change project, and I'm majoring in sustainable environmental design. I'll pass it to Kayla.
Hi everyone, I'm Kayla. My pronouns are she/her. I'm a senior majoring in environmental economics and I'm one of the committee leads this semester. I'll pass it on to Ava.
Hi everyone, I'm Ava. I'm also a committee lead this semester. I'm a junior studying ecosystem management and forestry and minoring in food systems and GIS. I will pass it to Emma.
Hi everyone, I'm Emma. I use she, they pronouns and I'm the committee lead this semester. I'm also a junior studying ecosystem management and forestry and data science. And I'll pass it off to Ranjani.
Hi everyone, I'm Ranjani. I'm a committee lead for exploring the Berkeley housing crisis, and my major is mechanical engineering. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'll pass it on to whoever's next.
Cool. So what is SURG? So SURG stands for the SDG Undergraduate Research Group. And so thereby, we are actually an undergraduate-led research group, which is really different from a lot of other research on campus, which might be faculty-run or mostly a thesis type project. So we're affiliated with the UC Berkeley Office of Sustainability. That's actually where we were founded, but since then, SURG has really moved on and grown and became an independent student organization, really with the intention of increasing access for our undergraduates to gain research experience and conduct their own projects. So all the research we do here is undergraduate run, it's undergraduate decided, and all the research is done by undergraduates. And it's a really, really wonderful experience, and you get a chance to do something that I personally have never seen in school or anything like that. Another thing is that we are guided by the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They are introduced in 2015 by the UN Development Program. They're really far-reaching, and there's 17 goals, which we will get to shortly. But that is the SDG and our name. Next slide, please.
So here are a couple of goals that are the priority of SURG. So first, we want to research cross-cutting sustainability issues. So bringing what we've learned into the classroom towards current events. Secondly, we want to empower undergraduate voices because we want to give students and our researchers a platform to share our research. And lastly, we want to increase access to research on campus since programs such as SPUR and URAP are sometimes difficult to get into. So we want to increase this accessibility for students. Researchers will join working groups to research sustainability topics, contribute to research reports, and present findings to key stakeholders at the end of the year symposium, which will be taking place in May. Next slide, please.
So this is a little bit of what SURG structures look like, SURG's structure looks like. So as you can see in the middle, we have the facilitator and the kind of overall board. For this semester, that's me, Rohit, and Brittany, and we'll be kind of guiding the larger logistics of the organization and making sure that we have everything in place from the general meetings to planning the end of the semester symposium. But as researchers, you'll primarily be working most closely with your committee lead on your subtopics a committee, whether that be like consumer culture, redwood forest, housing crisis, or the urban agriculture. Be working with a small group of students, kind of researching that specific topic and working closely with that team, depending on how many hours you want to wait or what kind of work you want to do. Kind of all depends on your committee lead. So like Rohit said, it's very independent. You have a lot of autonomy in the way you move your research forward and the way you kind of structure everything up. This is kind of the general structure of the larger organization. And really quickly, we also want to cover what you'd be doing as a researcher. We estimate this to be around 2 to 3 hours per week, including one weekly meeting that you have with your team, and then kind of some time on your own doing independent analysis. So on the left, you kind of see more of the research side of your role as a researcher. You'll be participating in the project, whether that be through gathering data, writing analysis, doing interviews with stakeholders. That'll be kind of the general research process, which will change with your different committees. You'll also be contributing to a final project or report, depending on how your committee is structured. And at the end, you'll be presenting that project to the research stakeholders at the end of the year symposium. And this is a really great way to kind of get the full look of what a research cycle is and kind of go all the way from gathering data and analyzing it to being able to present it and synthesize it to folks who have not done this research yet. And the left side is kind of the more fun things that we do as part of SURG and hopefully as part of the community. We have general meetings every Tuesdays, bi-weekly on Tuesdays, and those will be fun, some great ways to interact with the larger community, get to know folks outside of your committee, and we do some fun things like make SURG bulletin boards and other like fun art projects. We also have some professional development and faculty seminars to kind of hone in on your research skills and improve them. And then we will have socials throughout the semester as just great ways to interact with the community. So I'm going to pass it off to Rohit and Brittany to talk a little bit about what some past projects have been, and then we'll go into what this semester's projects look like.
Oh, peculiar. Okay, cool. So this is my first SURG project. Farsha and I conducted a year-long project back in fall 2020. And actually, Ava and Emma, who are hosting their own projects, were on this team with me. And it was a really fun and wild ride. So if you can see this photo, this photo was like really popular around the time when we started this project. It was right when COVID was getting, like, it was like first year COVID, of course. And it was right when we had those horrible wildfires. So this, if you can see it on the senior center, it's in flames and it says wear mask, wash your hands, social distance, stay safe. And around this time, I was really concerned with how these crises that were happening around the world were really overlapping and intersecting. And so I was able to talk with my professor, and we kind of oriented this project around wildfires and climate resilience. So what we did is we primarily focused on 2 key sections after a lot of working and a lot of reviewing the literature and getting a really holistic understanding of wildfires as a whole. We produced 2 reports. One of them, which Ava really took the lead on, was a GIS mapping project where we studied the wild and urban interface in the Bay Area and found the most vulnerable areas for wildfire. For us to know, it was a really exciting project, and we actually have it approved to be published as a book chapter and in another journal in the Global South, which should be out in September. And our second project, which was really analyzing the effects of wildfire smoke and how wildfire smoke has changed over time. And we actually found some really interesting results. Seeing that, we did not realize, okay, really quickly, really the short results were, we didn't realize that wildfire smoke and air pollution is overall worse in the wintertime and the non-wildfire season. That was like a really interesting phenomenon. But we're starting to see a trend where the difference between the two, the non-wildfire season, the wildfire season, which is normally much cleaner, is starting to disappear. And it's needless to say, the wildfire season is having a really weird effect on the air pollution. And it was a really fun thing to do. it was really fun to explore this because I've never got to do anything like this in my classes. And I really think it's prepared me for my thesis and research I'm doing now with the same professor beyond SURG, which is really exciting. So yeah, and I'll pass it to Brittany.
Great. So this was a project I worked with my colleague Sarah, who graduated. So our project was titled Microplastics in the Bay Area and Their Effect on Sea Life and Human Health. So our goals were to figure out the extent to which local sea life is affected by microplastics in the bay and how consumption levels in microplastics directly affects human health. Specifically with seafood and consumption of seafood. So we wanted to examine existing microplastic studies and data sets with an emphasis on the Bay Area and the Berkeley community. So in order to do this, we looked at the San Francisco Estuary Institute's comprehensive report that they released a year before this project. And basically they had a lot of information about microplastics and the currents and mapping them with GIS. So our team was able to actually talk with a lot of the researchers from the San Francisco Estuary Institute. And that was a really exciting experience. And we were also able to analyze affected communities and the linkage to environmental justice, looking at which communities consume more plastic and thus are more susceptible. And lastly, we also collected open source data on UC Berkeley dining facilities. We cross-checked which groups of seafood were being released to students and which groups of seafood had more levels of microplastics. So that was also really exciting as well. And we were able to release our report at the end of spring semester 2021, and that's available to read on our website. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so you got a little bit taste of what some of our past researchers looked like. As you can tell, we've gone all the way from creating reports to working with stakeholders like the Estuary Institute and also publishing in like national papers. So there's a lot you can do with SURG, and we wanted to give you a quick glimpse of what that looked like. But now we're going to move on to probably the most exciting part is the open projects for this semester and how you can play a role in SURG. So I'll first pass it off to Ava.
All right, hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Welcome again to tonight's info session. I'm going to kick it off and just briefly introduce the project that I'll be leading, which is tentatively called Urban Agriculture in the East Bay. So really at the heart of this project is to analyze the potential of urban agriculture to cultivate food sovereignty and combat food inequalities within our food systems. So it'll center environmental justice as it looks at how groups across Berkeley and the East Bay are using urban agriculture to redefine foodways here. In connecting with local leaders and doing outside research, I hope to gain more insight into current challenges that urban farmers are facing and then utilize GIS as a tool to explore potential solutions. So overall through this work, I hope that we can better understand how the East Bay might serve as a model and inspire other regions to really start focusing on urban agriculture as a means to creating sustainable and equitable cities. So more specific goals that I hope to achieve within this project are to really focus on the legacy of colonization in the Bay. I think that this historical context is really integral in understanding current food injustices and how to really meaningfully approach change. So that'll be a guidepost of this project for sure. And then more specifics on GIS. I envision a few things with mapping work still to kind of be determined throughout the semester, but the first idea is an interactive map of all urban agriculture sites within this region as a means of enhancing knowledge sharing and creating more accessible networks of these groups. And the second being another map that might indicate where new sites could potentially begin. So really helping informing policymakers and other relevant stakeholders working in this movement. So yeah, that's enough about the GIS stuff, but also just wanted to quickly discuss the story maps portion, which is what I hope to be the primary medium of sharing this research. I won't be focusing as much on a traditional paper or report as other projects have. Instead, I'm hoping to really explore this new form of research communication, and I'm excited about learning more and hopefully others are also interested in using this. And then, yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so it wouldn't be complete talking about SURG without mentioning the SDGs that are guiding the work of this project. So on the left-hand side, I have zero hunger, reduced inequalities, and good health and well-being, kind of being all interrelated to this overall goal of, or just overall idea about how everyone should have equal access to healthy and nutritious food. So much of our work will be taking a systemic approach to looking at food inequalities and then seeing how, producing food in cities might improve access in the long run. And then finally, on the right-hand side, I have sustainable cities and climate action kind of linked together. Most of the world population will be living in urban areas by mid-century. So there's kind of a real big question looming over our heads right now about how we're going to accommodate this growth and how we're going to do it sustainably. So I don't think urban agriculture is the panacea to those questions, but I certainly think that it can be part of the solution. So that'll be the heart of the project. And then, yeah, that's kind of concluding the general framework of everything. But my intention is to really co-create something with other team members. So I want everyone to feel empowered in sharing their ideas on the direction of this project. So if anyone's interested in this work, I'm sorry, yeah, just please share any initial thoughts and applications. That's kind of it from me. I'll pass it to Emma for the next project.
Thank you, Ava. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Emma again, and the project that I'm leading this year is going to be around the topic of redwood forest restoration. A little bit about me, I feel like I've had a couple of opportunities now through Berkeley and outside of Berkeley where I've had opportunities to do kind of like funded fieldwork and research, which were really cool, and I got to go to like these really amazing places that I wouldn't have been able to go otherwise. So I kind of wanted to try to do something where I could apply to grants. There's a couple of grants that are going around now around redwood forest research. So I'm trying to apply to those and hopefully, no promises, but hopefully this team can get some funding to go out to the forest and maybe do some sort of research. So fingers crossed for that. This project aims to utilize geospatial and hands-on approaches to aid in Bay Area redwood forest restoration. Of course, redwoods are really vital to managing monitoring species in like the Bay Area. They're really, really important to our ecosystems and for carbon storage in terms of like climate change. And I really want to incorporate both the field aspects and also geospatial and data science work, some sort of GIS mapping. So even if you don't have any experience in coding data science, that's completely okay. Any amount of experience is good. And I really want to kind of teach people new skills. So if you have no experience, please don't be intimidated. And yes, this project is ideal for students of any background who are passionate about ecological restoration or climate change or anything related to this topic and are interested in learning more about GIS, remote sensing, and fieldwork. Some of the goals that I want to cover, I want to have us understand different forest management techniques and hopefully incorporate some sort of indigenous traditional ecological knowledge, because there's a lot of history surrounding kind of racism and anti-indigenous practices in the forestry movement, especially in California. Investigating the changes that redwoods will undertake due to climate change and determine the usefulness of different restoration approaches. And then also learning geospatial techniques to solve environmental challenges, probably using ArcGIS and potentially some fancy machine learning techniques like Maxent. And then just to quickly talk about the sustainable development goals. Definitely life on land and climate action are very pertinent. Also, clean water and sanitation could be a direction we go, and responsible consumption and production. This project is not super specific yet, so if you have any particular directions you want to go in, if you have something that you want to focus in, then I'd really like to hear it. So yeah, thank you, and I'll pass it off to the next person.
Hey guys, it's me again, Ranjani, and my project is about exploring the Berkeley housing crisis for more specifically the unhoused community. So our project aims to analyze Berkeley policies that perpetuate homelessness and instability within Berkeley communities, and we want to contribute a sustainable solution, right? So this could be through community-led projects, possible legislative policies we can show, designs like tiny homes or buildings, things like that, right? And our point is to understand the current housing crisis in Berkeley and research into Berkeley history and the intersection of environmental, social justice issues involving homeless encampments. People without housing often have inaccessibility to clean water, electricity, food, shelter, and with ongoing COVID concerns, the unhoused community is at greater risk, right? So our goal is we want to recognize that homelessness is not something that can be addressed in isolation, but rather we need to understand the historical background behind it. And this really connects to the research methodologies that you'll learn as we're going through this process, because we'll be showing how understanding the history, understanding the background of any subject matter is important in taking the first step towards research. In addition, our research would be informed by the fact that we're on Indigenous ground, and Indigenous homelessness is incredibly underrepresented represented in urban areas, right? And our goal as researchers is to understand the complex threads within the Berkeley housing crisis. So we want to investigate the policies, the history, and use data analysis to understand the effects from COVID. Now, this research is split into two parts. So the first part is understanding that. The second part is providing a basis for a sustainable solution. So that means you get the opportunity to design creative solutions. You as undergraduate researchers get to determine what direction this project goes in. So it could go in the public health direction, it can go in the policy making direction, or it can go in the design of actual physical creation direction. So whatever it is, it all depends on what you want to do or what you decide, because it's very open sourced, you know? Next slide, I'll talk about the SDGs involved with this project. Now, I only included the SDGs that are right now pertinent to this project. So that means no poverty, industry, innovation and design, reduced inequalities, and sustainable communities. And poverty for all is what we are trying to do for the unhoused community in Berkeley specifically. Now, the reason why more SDGs can be added is because depending on the direction our design takes in the second phase of the project, we can add SDGs related to maybe clean water, or SDGs related to maybe infrastructure, or SDGs related to legislation or social justice. And that's an important aspect of this project and what I wanted to provide for these undergraduate researchers that want a more creative solution while also learning a lot of research in the process. Now I'll pass it off to Ankita and Kayla.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Ankita. Consumer culture and climate change is a continuing project from the fall semester. So I'll just give a little overview. This is our second semester of research, and essentially this project aims to critically analyze the conversations invoked by climate change. And everyone from politicians and businesses to designers are taking on this new challenge of sustainability. And there are many questions about the effectiveness of their actions, which are easily susceptible to greenwashing and false sustainability. And additionally, they fail to address the root of the issue and lack urgency. And unlike the current approaches such as carbon credits and electrification, climate change is not an issue that can be addressed in isolation, and there are much deeper issues: overproduction and exploitation of natural resources, and in turn, overconsumption. And this project was essentially founded after Kayla and I have taken multiple sustainability classes and multiple environmental and intersectional classes with economy. And there's a lot of conversation that's often left out. So this project's main goal is to essentially push that conversation forward and come out with something more less isolated solutions and holistic. I'll pass it on to Kayla.
Next slide, please. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about our sustainable development goals. So our project addresses two main SDGs. The first goal is SDG 12, which is about ensuring sustainable consumption and production patterns. During the first half of the project, we learned how to distinguish between responsible consumption and overconsumption and how that relates to overproduction. We analyzed how existing solutions to climate change address this specific relationship. And our second goal is SDG 13, which is taking urgent action to tackle climate change and its impacts. We're researching these goals specifically because they often present vague and often contradicting statements in their objectives. So phrases like sustainable industrialization and responsible consumption, and oftentimes these goals, they fail to consider the root of the problem. So we hope to identify those gaps in our project. Next slide, please. So like what Ankita said, our project is a year-long project divided into two components that I'll go over briefly. Last fall, we focused on analyzing the evolution of overconsumption and understanding the faults and gaps of current climate solutions. We looked at solutions from 4 different entities such as private, public, social movements, and international organizations. These solutions ranged between corporate climate action to social movements to non-governmental solutions. So in short, we found that the current mainstream climate action kind of like upholds and promotes like a business as usual solution. But for next semester, we want to do more of a strict analysis beyond business as usual. And I'll pass it off to Ankita to talk a little bit more about our spring objectives.
Yeah, so based on our findings and a couple feedback that we received from professors, this semester is mainly focused on building a full picture analysis. So one part of that is completing a systems thinking approach to this situation, which will essentially allow us to understand the root causes of our Earth situation and our ecological state right now. And this will largely entail compound issues brought by colonization, globalization, and capitalism, which is often not addressed when talking about climate change or overconsumption. And lastly, the second part and the main part of our research, the part that we'll be producing most of our work on, is a solutions-oriented approach. And this is where we understand what can we do in the midst of dealing with issues that seem larger than us, which often stifles the conversations. So this is a huge part to pushing the conversation forward.
So before I dive into our mentor, I want to talk a little bit more about what we're looking for in a team. For this project, we don't require applicants to have any technical experience. We would just love if applicants are interested in learning about like small and large scale solutions to climate change and analyzing them from the lens of overconsumption. We expect some applicants to be able to be open to critically analyzing the rigor and motives behind current climate change solutions through like a business as usual and roots perspective. And finally, we welcome like applicants, like any applicants who are willing to just challenge norms and systems implemented now for tackling climate change. Next slide, please. So our project, we have a mentor and his name is Arthur Mallet Diaz. He is a master's student in the Energy and Resources group, and he's really interested in the intersection of sustainability and empowering local communities through climate solution. He's done research in issues related to business ethics, sustainability, labor issues, ecosystem impacts, and other issues that businesses face while trying to act socially responsible. But over the semester, we'll be working with him on this project. So if you're interested in any of our project objectives, we welcome you to apply. So feel free to join us. I'll pass it on to the next person.
Great. So if you're interested in applying, please fill out our application by February 2nd at midnight. Our application link is here. Also, you can scan the QR code or click on the links that I've pasted in the chat. I've also included the interest form because if you'd like to sign up for our email list, we'll send out information about the deadlines and any reminders. And I also have the socials link tree as well as the website. The website has information about past projects that you can look through and some of our previous deliverables.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for coming. That was the end of our info session. in terms of the slides. And once again, we'll post the recording on our website and our Facebook if you ever want to go back and look at anything. But thank you all so much for coming.